Hello everyone, my name is Shambhavi. Hope you all are doing well. Now today we are going to learn about the daemon threads, right? We had seen many things in the thread communication. We had done many things previously, right? Now we are going to learn about the daemon threads. We are going to see that what is this daemon threads actually. Now what we need to study here, what are they actually used for, how to write out the program for the daemon threads, right? These are all the things which we are going to understand today. So the very first thing that comes is that I need to understand the definition for this particular thing, right? What is definition for this? So I go with the definition here as the threads which are always going to running in the background that provides supports to main or non-daemon threads. Those background executing threads are considered as daemon threads. Right. Now here it says the threads which are always going to running in the background. Okay, there are the threads, many threads which always run in the background, right? Now the threads which always run in the background and that provides the support to the main threads. Okay, the main threads which we are having, this provides the support to the main thread. Those background executing threads are considered as daemon threads. So the threads which are always running in the background and which provide some support to the non-daemon or the main threads, so that background executing threads are actually called as the non-daemon daemon threads, right? I hope that you are very much clear first of all with the definition. That what do I just want to say from the definition to you. Let me repeat this once again here, that there are many threads which are always running running basically running into the background. Okay, which are always running into the background, like they always run in the background part. So what they do, they actually provide the support to the main thread. This is the use of those running running threads which are running in the background. They actually provide the support to the main threads, right? So that background executing text which I'm just talking about, that they always do in the background and they provide support to the main thread, that background executing threads are only known as daemon threads, right? This is the particular definition for this particular daemon threads. Now firstly we'll be seeing about the non-daemon today. Okay, that is non-daemon. I'll be seeing about this particular thing. Let me put out a hash and let me write that here, non, and the that is the non-daemon threads. Okay, this is the thing that I would be seeing here. So these are the things which come under the threading module, right? These are the which come under the thread. So previously when Python 3 was not there, so previously we usually used to write import thread and that would actually work. But now if you are going to write that import thread, it will not at all work. Okay, let me write out import thread. Now this import, okay, instead of this threading, I would simply write thread. See, it is not working, right? It is just showing me red curly line. That means this thread is something error. This is, you are having some error here, right? Before Python 3 was launched, this import thread was actually worked. This actually works. But as this Python 3 has come, so this import thread actually does not work. You need to use out the threading module. Whatever you just want to use out for the threads, what are the functions you want to use out for the threads, all of them come under the threading module. So you just need to import out the threading module and then it actually works fine. So I would just write here from threading import, and here goes the asterisk. So from threading import out the asterisk, right? Asterisk means that I need to import out all of the functions and my module name is threading. So from the threading module I need to import out all of the functions which I am having here, right? And next goes that I need to import out the time module because I'll be using that throughout my program. Now this is optional. Import time is optional. You want to import it, import. If you just want to use that in your program, then import it. Otherwise leave it. There is no such hard and fast rule that you need to import the time function as well. Fine. Now what I would just do is that I'll be making out a function here. Okay. So def okay, def, and let's say my function name is first underscore thread. Okay, first underscore thread is my function name. Let's say. Okay, come here. Inside this I'll be applying a condition that for I in range, okay, and inside the bracket let's say my range which I want to give here is 6, right? So for I in range, my loop is started and into the bracket I give a range that is 6. I would be printing a statement here, print, and what is my statement? That, okay, that I would just write this, this is This is a okay, this is a non-daemon daemon thread. Okay, this is a non-daemon thread. This is the statement which I wanted here to be printed, that this is a non-daemon thread. Right? Now, after this, what I can just apply is that I can just write time dot sleep. And let's say I want to give it a time dot sleep of 3 seconds. Okay. Now, this whatever the parameter you are going to pass inside this sleep function, this is always taken as into the seconds, right? If you want to use here some minutes, so in that case you just need to multiply it by 60. But if you're not writing anything like that, so it will automatically take the number passed inside the sleep function as a seconds. Okay, so this means that here 3 seconds. Just remember this thing very careful, that it is not actually 3 minutes. Okay, it is 3 seconds. This is the use of the sleep function only, right? That I have completed out here. Now basically my thread has been made. Now what I would just do is that I would be making out a variable for my thread. Okay, so let's say capital T. Okay, let's say capital T is the variable for my thread. And here what I would just do is that I'll be calling out my thread actually. Th would be small thread. Okay, and into the bracket I'll be writing target. Now what does this target actually mean? So in target we write out that function name which we actually want to call out. Okay, I want to call out here first underscore thread function. So that is why I'll be writing here first underscore thread. Right, this is what I would be doing. Now I have made it out my thread here. I had completed and created out my thread. Now what is the next thing? I need to start out my thread here. Right, so you know that how we just do that. We had done that thing since from the very starting of the threads topic. So in that case, we just use the start function here. This start function is actually used to start out my thread. So here T is written. T is a variable in which I have stored out my thread, and the target for that is first underscore thread. So it will automatically start out this above thread which I have declared here, T dot start, right? Now what I would just next do is that I even want to apply a like sleep out sleep function here. Okay, time dot sleep. And let's say here I applied a sleep as 4. Okay, and here I would simply write out a print statement, and I would just write that this okay, this is a main thread execution. Okay, let's say this is the statement which I wanted to print here, that this is the main thread execution. Just have a look at what I have done. First of all, I had just imported out my threading module, and from that threading module I have imported out all of the functions which I am particularly having into this module. Right, and after that I had imported out my time module because I just want to use out the sleep function. If you do not want to use out the sleep function here, then you can just remove out this line number 9, that is import time. You do not use that out. Okay, next what I have done, actually I have made out a function, and the name for that function is first underscore thread. Okay, now after that I applied a loop that for I in range. So I in range in bracket I just wrote 6. So 6 times this line will be printed to me that this is a non-daemon thread. Right, 6 times will be printed because I have put out my range as 6. Now whatever the number of range you actually put it out here, that much number of times your this line would be executed, and simply applied out the time dot sleep, and in bracket I just wrote here as 3. Okay, now after that I made out a variable here that is capital T, and in that basically what I had stored, this is one of my thread is a basically module which comes into the function which comes into the threading module only. So I just used out that particular thing here, T is equal to thread, right? And what target I have given here, which I have given here is first underscore thread. So here actually for one type you can actually say that I have performed the function calling at this particular line, that's line number 16. Inside this thread, I had put out the target, and there I have performed my function calling. I just wrote out that same similar name which I have written here, first underscore thread. Remember one thing, that do not put out these brackets after the first underscore thread. Okay, after that I simply started my thread. So for starting your thread, your function the function which you use is start. Okay, that has actually started out your thread, and after that I just simply wrote time dot sleep. So that time dot sleep value I just gave it here as 4, and simply printed out a print statement that this, okay, let me correct out the spelling for this, that this is a main thread execution. Right, now let me just run this out here for a while. Fine. See, first of all, it gave me this statement that this is a non-daemon thread. This is a non-daemon thread. This is a main thread execution. That this is a non-daemon thread. This is a non-daemon thread. It again gave me that particular line. See, it's coming in every 3 seconds, right? Because I have put out the time as a 3 seconds. Okay, because of that only, it is coming. The answer is coming to me in every of the 3 seconds, right? Now, okay, I just wrote out the spelling for is wrong. Just let me correct that out. Then I will just explain that what is the final output of this right here. Now, let me just run that again here for a while. Right. Let the output be printed here. Fine. First line is my, this is a non-daemon. Again, I just got my third line, then my fourth. Everything is coming in the particular time which I have actually mentioned. That was time dot sleep, and in the bracket we are written out 3, right? So because of that only it is coming in this particular time. Now just have a look at what I mentioned to you previously as well, that your thread would be executed 6 times. Why 6 times? Because you have given out the range as 6. So here we are, this is a non-daemon thread. Here above 2 times it executed, and after that it executed here total 6 times, the 4 times downside and 2 times upside. Okay, it totally executed this thread to me for 6 times. After that we were having one another statement as well, that this is a main thread. Let me come down, right? This is a main thread execution, right? This one statement as well we were having. So this main statement just come out here, right? So basically, I hope that you have got a fair and a clear idea regarding the, first of all, the definition of the daemon threads, and after that you had got out that simply how to write out a program for this non-daemon thread. In the next video, we'll be seeing about the daemon threads as well, how to the daemon threads actually work, and basically, and how non-daemon threads work during, and what is the execution for that procedure. Right, so our topic for today's discussion is that an example to show how daemon threads behave over non-daemon threads during program execution. Right, this is the topic which we are going to discuss today. So, before discussing out this topic, in the previous video, what we had seen about the program of non-daemon threads, and we had seen the definition that what are actually daemon threads and non-daemon threads, and all these things we had actually seen. Right, so let me just give you a quick revision of the previous things that we have discussed, and I'll be moving towards the new ones for now. Okay, so here we start up the threads which are always going to running in the background that provide supports to main or non-daemon threads. Those background executing threads are considered as daemon threads. Now, basically there are threads which are always running out. Okay, in the background those threads always run out, right? So that provides, and why basically they run in the background, so that to support the main or non-daemon threads, right? So there are multiple threads which are always going to run in the background, and why? Because that provides the support to the main or non-daemon threads, and that threads which execute at the background, those threads are actually called as daemon threads, right? This is the definition for the daemon threads, that what actually are daemon threads, right? Hope first of all you just remember out this definition which we have actually seen out in the previous video, right? Now, after that we had even seen one program in which I had done this program. We'll discuss about this program afterwards, okay? First of all, let me just again go on to this particular file where I have just write out the question for today, and let's discuss about this thing, right? We'll be discussing about an example to show how daemon threads behave over non-daemon threads during program execution, right? Let us begin. So the very first thing that I am going to do here is that I would be first of all making out my, importing out my threading module. Okay, and from that threading module I'll be importing out all of the functions. So for that I would write from threading import, and here goes the asterisk. So threading is basically my module that I am using, and this asterisk actually refers to the function. So the very first line which I have written here, this actually means that threading is the module which I am using, and from that module I am importing all the functions which I have into this particular module. Now previously what happened, that whenever you just want to use the threads or to make the threads into your program, you simply wrote out import thread, and that actually worked. But as soon as the Python 3 has came, You cannot do this thing like this. Okay, if you just want to make out the threads, if you just want to use out the thread, so in that case you need to use out the threading module only. So the Python 3 does not support the thread module, it simply supports out the threading module. This is how we go. Okay, so I have written out that from threading import string, and after that I'll be even using out my time module. So for that case I have written import time, right? This is all what I have written here for importing out my modules which I'll be using throughout my program. Now coming down, what I'll be doing is that I'll be making out a function here for me. Okay, so that is diff. Diff is a keyword which is used to make out the function, right? So I'm just writing here diff, and I'll just write here that let's say first underscore thread, that is my function name which I have made. Okay, diff is the keyword which I have used for making out the function, and the function name is first underscore thread that I have actually made out here. Fine. After that, basically what I would just do here is that I would be applying out a for loop. Okay, this program is a little bit similar to the previous program only, but there are some new things here to discuss upon that we'll be using out here. Okay, so now I will just write here for. Now my loop goes that for let's say for a. Okay, so for a in range, and into the bracket I would put on my range. Let's say that is 4. Right, so this is how we apply the for loop, right? That we just put out a value into the between after the for and before in, that will actually refer to the indexing which I am having. So for a in range and into bracket I put out a value. So the number of the, like, basically what is the value I have put inside the bracket, my for loop will execute that much number of times, right? So this is why we just put out a value here. Fine. Inside this I'll be putting out and printing out my thread that let's say first thread is here. Uh, let's say this is the statement which I wanted to print, that first thread is here, right? This is the first thread only which we are making, and name for my function as well as first thread. So I can just put on here that the first thread is here. Now after this, what I can just do is that I can simply write time.sleep. Now this is what the reason that why I have imported out the time module above, because I just wanted to use out the sleep function from my time module. Now what does the sleep function actually do? It is the whatever number of seconds you're going to give inside the bracket, it will stay for that much of seconds and then display your second statement. Then again it will display like a stay for the number of sub seconds, then it will again display a third statement. This is how the sleep function actually works. One more very important thing to keep in mind regarding the sleep function is that in the sleep function, whatever the value you just give out inside the brackets, that are always in seconds actually. Okay, like basically they what is the value you are going to give, what is the time value you are going to give inside this, it is in the seconds. Now if you just want to convert that into minutes, you need to multiply that by 60. By default it takes a seconds only, right? So I would just put on the bracket here and I will just write, let's say I am having 4 seconds. Okay, let's say my value for my seconds is 4. Fine, my function, if I have completed out my function which I wanted to make out here. Now what I would just do is that I would be making out my thread. Okay, so my thread, let's say my T1 is my thread. Okay, that I have made out T1 is the thread. Now into this I'll be using out my thread function, which will come from my threading module, right? So thread, and into the bracket I'll be writing target. Now target is the parent, it is a parameter in which we just call out our function, right? My function name is first underscore thread. So whenever we just make, okay, spelling for thread is not correct, thread, right? So whenever we just want to call out the function and you're making out the thread, so we just call out the function inside this target parameter. Okay, we just make out the thread, and inside that thread we have a parameter which is target. I just make out that parameter, and what I just do is that I just simply call out my function here. Right, that I have even done at this particular place as well. Now what I would just do is that I would be changing that T to daemon thread. Okay, my T1 which I had made here, that is my variable that's actually storing out my thread. So now I'll be changing out that variable to the daemon thread. Okay, to the daemon. So how to do that? I would just write here T1 dot, and I would just write set daemon. This is how. Okay, after this T1 I just need to put out a dot, not the comma. Yes, so T1 dot set daemon, and into the bracket I'll be passing here as boolean value which is true. This is how you set out basically you change your variable in which you have stored your set to the daemon. Okay, so this is how you do. You put out the variable in which you have stored out your thread. For me, that is t1. I will put out a dot here. After that, I will be using a function that is set daemon. Okay, and into the bracket I'll be passing here as true. So true means to like basically change out the thread to the daemon. Hey, this is what I have done. Now after this, what I would just after this, what I would just do is that I would be starting out my threading. Right. So for starting out my thread, I will be writing t1 dot, and here goes the start. Right, here t1 goes the start. Start is basically the function which is used to start out your thread. Right. So I just wrote here t1 dot start. After this, I would just write time dot sleep. Okay, I just want to once again give some time for sleep. So that is, let's say, 3. I just put out the time dot sleep. As you know, the rules for the sleep function, that the sleep is one of the functions which come in the time module. So whenever you just want to use that out, first of all, you need to import out the time module. Second thing goes that whatever the value you are going to pass inside the bracket, that will automatically be treated in the seconds. Okay, if you just want to make it to the minutes, you can just multiply it by 60, right? But by default, it will take in the seconds only. Fine. And after this, I would just use out one of my printf statements. And let's say that printf statement is that, let's say main thread, okay, main thread is here. Main thread is here, right? This statement is what is the statement which I just wanted to print out. So just put out the statement at the last, which is main thread is here. Right, let me give you an overview of the program. After that, we'll be running this out. Right, so I have used out my threading module, and from threading module I've imported out all of the functions which I have. So when you want to import all the functions, we use the asterisk. After that, I want to give out some sleep time, so I've imported the time. Now if you just do not want to give out some sleep time, simply you can remove this import time module from here, and simply you can remove out this statement. That doesn't too much matter. That if you just like want to give, then pass on, otherwise leave that like this only. Okay, after that, made out a function that is div, and the function name is first underscore thread. Okay, my function name. I applied a for loop that for a in range, and my range which I gave here is 4. So basically my loop will run 4 times into this, and the statement which is first thread is here, this will be printed 4 times to me, and the difference between them will be 4 seconds. So the first statement will be printed, after that it will stay for 4 seconds, then the second statement will be printed, after that it will stay again for 4 seconds, then the third, and it goes like this. Right, after that I made out a variable that is t1, and into that I just made out my thread. Fine, and the thread, inside that thread I just used out my parameter which is the target parameter, and in that target parameter I just called out my function. So my function name was post underscore thread, so I just called out that thing here. Now please make sure not to put out the brackets after this, because if it's going to put out the brackets, it will basically not result to the correct answer. Okay, so make sure not to put out the brackets. And after that, here I had used t1.setDaemon. So now here what I'm just doing is that I am changing my t1, my variable in which I have stored my thread, to that daemon. So this is what I am doing here, right? So t1.setDaemon, and here in the bracket I just passed true. After that, I started my thread, that is t1, and after that even I just give out some sleep time as well, and printed my last statement, that is main thread is here. Now if I just run this out here, let's run it. Now see what I'm getting first thread is here, and the main thread is here, right? Now whatever the range I would put inside, that doesn't match us actually, right? Because here I have set it out as a daemon thread, right? So that is why I'm getting first thread is here, and after that I'm getting the main thread is here, right? So this is how you'll be getting out the output for this particular program. Hope you have got out the idea for this program, that how to use out this, and basically how to use an example to show daemon threads behave over non-daemon threads during program execution. Right, so here we just used one new thing, that was set daemon, right? This one function we used out a new one here, right? So basically I hope that you have got a clear and a fair idea regarding this topic, that how you can write out a program for the daemon threads, and other than that how you can access the daemon threads in 3 ways. Okay, I will be telling you about the multiple ways with which you can access out these daemon threads, right? This is all what I am gonna do today. Let's pick it up here, but before moving and writing out the program, let me just quickly give you an overview regarding the daemon threads, that what are actually daemon threads. So we had already seen this thing in one of the previous videos, that what do we mean by daemon threads. Let me read out the definition for you, that the threads which are always going to running in the background that provides support to main or non-daemon threads, those background executing threads are considered as daemon threads. See, there are many threads which always run in the background. But why they actually run in the background? So as to provide some support to the main threads or the non-daemon threads. Right, so the basically the threads which are always going to run in the background to provide some support. Okay, those background executing threads are actually known as the daemon threads. So daemon threads are the threads which always run in the background to provide some support to the main thread or to my non-daemon thread. So that background executing threads are always considered as the daemon threads. First of all, I hope that this definition is absolutely clear to you regarding the daemon threads. Right. Now let me just open out this file and let's start writing out the program. Okay. Now I'll be writing out and telling you some different ways to access, as I mentioned this thing previously as well. So first of all, I'll be importing out the threading here. Import threading. Now always I just tell this thing in my video, and today as well I'm going to repeat this out, that why we do not import the thread directly. We do not import the thread directly because Python does not support importing the thread directly. It supports importing out the threading module. Before Python 3 was here, before Python 3, we always used to write import thread only. We do not use the threading module anywhere. We simply write out import thread. But as soon as Python 3 came into running, so that actually does not support directly importing out the thread. Okay, so in that case, firstly you need to import out the threading module, and as you are going to import out the threading module, that thread function will automatically be imported and you can basically use that throughout your program. Okay, this is the whole idea. Second thing that I'll be importing out here is time. Import time. So time is basically one of the modules that I'll be importing. Now by the time you have understood about the time module and you have even got the idea that why I am importing the time module. I'm importing it because here basically what we do, like time module I'll be using here for a sleep function. Okay, for using out the sleep, I would be using here the time module. Right, this is what I would be doing out here. Fine. Now, okay, now what I'll be doing is this. I would be defining out a function here. Let's say I wrote out here def. Okay. Now, after this def, basically what I'll be doing is I'll be writing one of my functions. Let's say that is one underscore fun. Okay, this is my function name actually which I have defined. I just taken out some random one here. So def one underscore run. Okay, after this I'll be putting out. Okay, let me remove this thing. Fine. Colon. Coming inside this, I'll be putting out one condition, that is while true. While true means that, okay. First of all, let me keep this as capital because this is a boolean value, right? While true. Now, what I'll be just doing this true. Why is this true actually used for? So we have a print statement, right? Okay. Okay. So basically this true function, why is this used for? So as I had applied out the condition while true, so this means now whatever that we're writing inside this while condition, that will surely be executed, right? What we are actually doing the while loop, we actually apply out a condition that let's say I want to print the numbers which are less than 10. So I'll be writing while a less than 10. This is what we actually do till now, right? But here what I haven't given any condition. What I want is that whatever I'm just writing, that should surely be executed. So simply I applied out my condition, that is while true. Fine. Come on to a new line here. Now I'll be using out my print statement. Okay, print, and here goes use of my if string. Now with the if strings you must be familiar with because we have discussed about if strings a lot in my videos, right? Let me repeat that out once again here, that if strings are actually used whenever you just want to, okay, let's say you're having a variable, okay, you are having a variable and you want that variable's value in between the in between your print statement. Let's say you're writing a statement that this is a and you just put out the language, and inside like between is and language you just want a value or a like character to come which you have stored in some variable. So in that case, this if strings are used. I'll be writing out here, then you'll be getting the more clear idea that why is this if string used for. Okay, let me put out the large bracket here first of all after this if string, and inside that let me put out the small bracket. Okay, this curly braces. Okay, inside this I'll be writing that. Okay, T would be small for threading. So threading dot current underscore thread dot name. Let's say this is what I just want to put out inside this f string. Okay, let's say this is the one which I want to put out here. Fine, that is done, right? And now what I would just do here after coming out this of this like large bracket, I'll be simply printing out that okay, I'll write that print me this thing. Okay, or I would just write print me this message. Okay, let's say this is the like print a statement which I actually wanted to come here. Fine. After this, what I can just do here is that I can give out a sleep time as well, right? So I can just write out some sleep time and give it here. So, okay. So for giving out the sleep time, this is the reason that's why I have imported out the time module here in this program. That's why I have imported the time module. So this is the reason. Simply, I could write here time dot sleep and into the bracket, let's say I gave here as 4. Now, what does this line actually means? Time is one of my module that has a function, and that function is actually sleep. Now, what is that function actually used for? So that function is used for, let's say I'm having this 4 into the bracket. Now, let's say what I just want is that my statements which I am writing here, what a number of times it executes. It should be executing a number of times after 4 seconds. Let's say my first statement executed. After that, for 4 seconds, there must be some gaps, some like pause. Again, after 4 seconds, my second statement will be printed. Then again, I want a 4-second pause. Then after that, again at the third, my third statement should be printed. This is what the sleep function actually does. One more important thing to keep in mind regarding sleep function is that whatever the value you are going to give here, that will be in seconds only, not in minutes, not in hours. That will be in seconds. Now, if you just want to convert that into minute or hour, so that depends on you, that multiplying by 60, that is the other thing. But by default, whatever the value you are going to put inside the sleep function, it will automatically take that in the form of seconds. Fine. This is what I was saying to. Right, now basically, coming out of my function, now basically what I'll be doing is that I would be initiating the thread and I'll be using the daemon set is equal to true. This is what I'll be doing out here. Fine. So let's say I just make it out here as thread. Okay, that is, let's say thread underscore daemon, my variable. Okay, thread underscore daemon. Here I'll be using out my threading module. Threading dot. I could use here the thread as well because I am making out a thread here, right? So threading dot thread. Now inside the bracket, what I'll be passing out? Inside the bracket, I would be passing out my function name. So target is equal to, and what I'll be just writing my function name, that is 1 underscore fun. Do not put out that brackets which were there. Okay, do not put out that brackets. Now, target is one of the parameters which we have in the thread function. In the thread, we have this parameter which is target. Okay, what is that actually used for? That is actually used for calling out the function which you have made out. So let's say you are making a thread and you just want to call out your function. So in that case, inside the thread, inside after putting out the parentheses, you can simply use the parameter which is target. You can just call out your function, that is 1 underscore fun. Right, that is okay. Put out a comma, and now basically here what I'll be using, I would be using here as name. Okay, name is equal to. Fine. And in this name, what I'll be using thread, let's say thread dash daemon, because I'm making the daemon thread, right? So I could simply pass out this thing here. And I have another parameter here, that is daemon. And now I would set that as true. So what I was actually doing, I was initiating the thread with the daemon set to true, right? I was setting out the daemons to true. So this is how we do this. This is the first method how we just do this thing. We set the daemon true as like this, right? This is the very first method how we just do out this thing. Second method I have I will put out actually hash here. Okay, and let me put out some multiple comments here. Fine, and let me go inside this. Okay, now here I'd be having my second method. Now, what is my second method for doing that thing out? So I can simply write first of all my variable, that is thread underscore daemon. I can put out a dot here, and I could simply use that daemon parameter which I have used inside this thread. I have used, right? Okay, let me show you where I had done that thing. So yeah, here I had used out this daemon, right? So I can just use that simply here, thread underscore daemon dot daemon. The thread underscore is a variable which I had made out. Okay, this one. So put out dot, and I could simply initialize that as true. This is the second thing that I can just do out here. Fine. After this, I even have a one third method as well, that how can I just do this thing. Let me come down and let me write here third method. Third method, right? Now, what is the third method that I can actually use out? So in that, I can simply write here thread underscore daemon, the variable in which I have stored out my thread. Okay, put out dot, and here I can use out the function that is set daemon. Okay, set daemon, and into the bracket I can just write here as true. Okay, these are the three methods how I can just set out this two daemon threads. Okay, first one I had already told you that here you can just write out daemon is equal to true inside this one. Second is, yeah, you can just use a thread underscore daemon that you can initialize that as true. And the third method is that you can simply again use thread underscore daemon, and you can just use out the set daemon function, and in the bracket you can pass here as true. Okay, these are the three methods which you can actually use out. Fine. Coming down, I would be starting out my thread here. So that would be thread underscore daemon dot start and the brackets like this. Right? Now what it will do actually, after this I can just simply give out a time dot sleep, and into the bracket I can just give out some value. Let's say that is 5. Okay, fine here. Now, and at last my main thread ends out at this particular place. If you just want to print out some statement for ending of your main thread, then you can do that thing as well, but I just do not want to do, because we were doing this thing from since a long time in our previous video, so I'm just not going to add out that thing, right? So now it's the time for running out my program. So here we go. See, it is firstly printed me that thread underscore thread daemon print with this message, and then after 4 seconds it had waited for me, and after 4 seconds it printed me the second line, that is print me this message, and thread underscore daemon. So how come this thread underscore daemon has been added here? So that has been added here with the help of the f strings. See, the value for the f string I have given here in this name, right? And my f string I have used it out here in this print statement. So the value for threading dot current underscore thread dot name was thread dash domain. This was daemon. That this is the statement, this is the word which I actually passed out here, and this was the statement which I had printed out, that you all know inside the printer statement, right? So basically this is how you can use out this, and you can just make out the daemon threads, and these are the three methods from which you can set your daemon as true, right? So I hope that you have got a clear and a very fair idea regarding these three things, that how we can set out these three. Learn about the pickling and unpickling. These are the two topics that we are gonna discuss today, right? So we'll be seeing first of all that what are definitions, what are these two topics actually used for, and after that we'll be seeing out basically that like how to do these things with the help of a program, right? This is how we are going to proceed today. Okay, let me begin now first of all with the pickling, that what's the definition for pickling and how we just do that, right? So in Python, pickling is a process by which Python objects are converted to byte streams. Pickling is about serializing the object structure in Python. Now, whenever we just talk about that Python objects are converted to the byte streams, okay, byte streams, whenever the Python object which you have made out, that are converted into byte stream, that process is actually called as the process which is pickling, right? Pickling is a process in which the Python objects are converted to the byte streams. Okay, I hope that first of all this much thing is very much clear to you, that what we meant from pickling, right? Now, what about is pickling totally false? It is totally about serializing the object structure in Python. Okay, now we have serializing the object structure. We need to serialize the object structure, right? So pickling is all about doing that particular thing only. Now, when we move towards the unpickling, So unpickling is the process of retrieving original Python objects from the stored string representation, that is from the pickle file. So whenever we just do pickling, so in that we make out a pickle file actually. Okay. Now from that file what we do, so from that file we want to retrieve some original Python object from the stored string representation which you have into that pickle file actually. Now this procedure is only called as unpickling, right? So it is a procedure of converting byte stream into the Python object. In simple words, you can just call that unpickling is the process of converting a byte stream into the Python object, right? And in real, sorry, and the pickling is converting the Python object into byte stream, and unpickling is the process of converting byte stream into the Python object. So whenever you just want to convert the Python object to byte stream, so in that case you use the like function, you use the procedure, you use the process, that is pickling. And whenever you just want to convert the byte stream into the Python object, like the reverse of the pickling, so in that case we just use out this function, this method, this procedure, which is called as unpickling. First of all, I hope that you are very much clear with the two terms which I have introduced you to today. That is, first one is the pickling and the another one is unpickling, right? So first of all, what we'll be doing is that we'll be doing the pickling. So that is, we will be converting the Python object into the byte streams. Okay, so let's begin up here. Okay, so whenever you just want to use some pickling, whenever you just want to use the pickling or unpickling into the Python programming, first of all you want to import out a module. Okay, and that module is called as pickle module, P-I-C-K-L-E, right? So first of all we'll be importing out that module, and after that we'll be moving ahead with the program. Okay, so I would just write here import, and here I would be just writing here as pickle. So this is how we import out the pickle module which we have in Python programming, and under the pickle module we have the functions which is pickling and unpickling, right? So here now after this I would be importing the IO module as well, because I'll be using that into my program. So I'm just importing that thing as well, right? I just imported. Okay, let's not import the IO module for now. Let's see that if you just want it in the middle, then we'll be like using it. Otherwise let it be. Okay, pickle is the module that I have imported out here. Now what next thing that I'll be doing, I'll be making out a function. Okay, so I would just write here function name is, okay, that is data underscore pickle. Okay, this is my function, and I put out a bracket, and now I'm just coming on to a new line. Now here basically what I would be just doing is that I'll be making out a data here. Okay, I would be simply making out a data here. So what I could just do here is that okay, so I would be just writing here that items. Let's say this is my variable which I have made out here, that is actually items, let's say. Okay, now what I would just do, I would just put an equal to sign, and inside this I could just define out a dictionary. Now what will that dictionary will contain? So you can just write out anything into that dictionary according to your choice. Okay, now I would be just, what I would just writing is, let's say I'd be just writing here that okay, let's say I'd be writing that on Monday, let's say on Monday I would be like, I would be studying computer science. Okay, computer science. So this is, let's say I just wrote down that on Monday I'll be studying the computer science. After that, what about the Tuesday? So let's say I would just write here Tuesday. So on Tuesday, what I'll be studying on Tuesday, let's say I'll be studying English. Okay, and let's say I would just take one more example, and let's say I would just put here as Wednesday. Yes, Wednesday. And what about the Wednesday? On Wednesday, I would be, let's say, studying about okay, let's say I will just write here Python. Fine, let's say these are the like I just made out a dictionary here. So now whatever dictionary is, so this Monday, like whatever you just write on the right hand side of the colon, that is your item, and whatever you just write on the left hand side of the colon, that is your key. So this Monday is key for me, and this computer science, either you call it as item, or you call it as value, or you call it as element. All the three are absolutely, we just call it anything. So mainly we just call it as a value. Okay, now Monday is my key, computer science is my value. Same moving forward, we have Tuesday is my key and English is my value. Then Wednesday is my key and Python is my value, right? So you had just made one dictionary, and inside that you have made multiple keys and multiple values. Okay, this is okay. Now what I would just do here is that I'll be writing file underscore name. I made a variable, and into this I'll be putting out one of the file names. Let's say my file name is information. I had not made that file previously, so there's no such need to do that thing as well. You could simply just write out the file name, and that would actually work for you. Okay, it will automatically make that file for you. Okay, it's not necessary to put out that information again and again, right? That is okay. Now after that, what I could just write is that I could just write out underscore file. This is basically my like variable in which I'll be opening out my file in the WB mode. Now what is the WB mode? So this WB mode is basically W is for write and B is for byte. So what we had just seen out that it has like what's pickling. So pickling is basically converting your byte converting a Python object to the byte stream, right? So that is the reason that we are opening this file name, that is information, into the WB mode. That is right, and B is for byte. Okay, writing in the binary mode. That B is for binary. Okay, not byte is for binary. So writing in the binary mode. So how do I just do that thing? I could simply write here open. Okay, now in like after this open into the bracket, I could route out the variable where I have stored my file name. So for that I had file underscore name. That is my variable in which I have stored my file name, which is information. So I would just write out that thing. Now I just want to set out the mode as well. That is WB. That is for write binary. So okay, this is how we just open up the file. I would just say in the starting, I would just use this open, and after that, I will be putting out this file underscore name, the variable in which I have opened out, the variable in which I have stored my file name. This is the name of my file in which I'll be doing the pickling, right? Now I would just want to write out something that I just want to write out these things which I have declared here in the dictionary. I just want to write out all of these things into this file, that is information. So that is why I am opening it in the WB mode. Let's say I just wanted to read it out, so I should have opened this in the RB mode. Okay, this is how this it is a little bit of file handling concept also works here in the pickling and unpickling. Right, now let me just come down here. Okay, I would be using the pickle function here. Pickle, okay, and into the bracket, put out the dot, and I would be just using here dump. Pickle dot dump. Okay, now what to dump here? Now what dump means to what to add. Okay, so that means I need to add the items. Items is the variable in which I have stored the dictionary, which I want to add onto this file name, that is information which I have made out, right? Pickle dot dump, and into the bracket I put out the items, right? Comma. And now basically, what is the variable in which I am opening my file, the file which I have made out. I am opening my file in the WB mid so as to write out something into that. So that variable name is out underscore file. So in that, right, I'm just opening out my file name, that is information, in the WB mode because I want to write out something. So that same variable I'll be using out here. So inside this dump function, you'll be putting two parameters. First is the values or the strings or something, whichever you just want to add into the file, that thing you will be writing. After that, you will be writing wherever you have just in the whichever variable you have opened your file, that particular variable you will be writing out here into the WB mode because you want to write out something onto that file, right? This much I hope it is very much clear to you. After this, when I had just opened out my file, it's my duty to close out my file as well, because it's a good practice always in the file handling that whenever we had just opened out any of the file, so we always make sure to close that particular file as well, right? So I just wrote out underscore file dot close, and here what I will be just doing is that I'll be writing, okay, now I'll be just calling out my function. So my function is data underscore pickle, and like this, right? And after this, if I just want, I just can write a print statement that uh, I could just write that pickling is done. This is the statement. So as soon as my Python object which I had made, as soon as that is converted into the bytes one, so just give me this answer, that is pickling is done. Now if I just try to run out my program here for a while, so just see, have a look at what I'm just getting here. So I'm getting that pickling is done, right? Now here basically I'll be just getting out some file with the name of information, and let me just check out where it is. So here it is a file name, that is information. So let's say if I just open it in text, that will not actually work correctly because here it has been converted into bytes. Just see that what it is actually giving me. It is not giving me anything accurate, right? Because I mentioned that is not correct. I'm opening in the text mode. So that is why it is not giving me the correct text. right? So here I just got a statement that pickling is done. So this means that whatever the functions above I have applied out, all of them have been done right here. Right, so this is how you do out the pickling. We do the pickling for this particular one which we had made out here, right? So I had told you about the pickling, I told you about the unpickling, and we had even seen how we just do out the pickling. Now today in this video it's the turn for doing out the unpickling, right? Today we'll be performing the unpickling. So now first of all let me just give you an overview so that you can just relate this particular video with the previous video as well. So in we have what we had discussed about the pickling. So we had discussed that in Python, pickling is the process by which Python objects are converted to the byte streams. Pickling is about serializing the object structure in Python. So in Python, basically, what is this pickling? Pickling is actually a process in which the Python objects are converted to the byte streams. Okay. In the case where we just convert the Python objects into the byte streams, that is called the pickling, right? Now that is all about serializing the object structures in the Python. Now what about the unpickling? So unpickling is basically the process of retrieving original Python objects from the stored string representation, that is from the pickle file. It is the process of converting a byte stream into the Python object, right? Now basically what is unpickling in if I just say the unpickling in detail way. So I would say that unpickling is the process of retrieving original Python objects from the stored string representation, that is from the pickle file. So here what happens that I am having a pickle file, right? Now basically the process of retrieving the original Python objects. Now we have an original Python object that we have already converted into the byte streams with the help of pickling, right? Now again getting back that Python objects in the stored string representation from the file where you have converted that into the byte stream. This process is actually called as unpickling. Okay. So if I just say that and unpickling in the very easy words, so I can just say that unpickling is the process of converting a byte stream into the Python object. So just understand it in a way that pickling is converting Python object to byte stream, and unpickling is simply converting byte stream into the Python object. This is how it actually works out, right? These are the two similar, you can just say there are reciprocal things for the pickling and the unpickling. I hope that first of all you are very much clear with both of these things, right? After that, let me just introduce you to the program as well, which we have written in the previous video. So first of all, we just want, whenever you just want to use out the pickle modules, you just want to import that out, right? So I just imported out my pickle module here. After that, I just made out a simple function. That function name was data underscore pickle. Okay. Now, into that basically I just made out a variable that was items, okay, and in items I just stored a dictionary. So every dictionary has its keys and values. So the keys which I introduced into this dictionary were Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday, okay, and the values which I introduced here were computer science, English and Python. Right, these are the keys and values which I have introduced in the both of in this whole dictionary. After that, I had taken a variable that was file underscore name. Now, what was that file underscore name was doing? So this file underscore name was actually I had put out a file name here. Let's say I just taken here that file name as information. Right? So if my file is not actually made, my file I haven't made that till now onto my this PyCharm ID which I am just using. I have not made out the file. But if you haven't done that till now, so it will automatically make out a file for you from whatever the name you are trying to give out here. So I am giving here as information, so it is making that file for me, and that is basically stored in the file underscore name. After that, I made out a variable which is out underscore file, because now what we'll be doing into this one, till now I have only and only made out my file. Now my next task is to open out a file in whatever the mode I want to open. So I have opened my file in the WB mode. Now WB mode is my write binary mode. So because I would just want to write something onto that particular file which I have made. So I have just opened it in the WB mode. After that, with the help of pickle.dump function, I have added these things into the file which I have made. So I have added my whole of the dictionary which I have made into the information file, and simply I closed and I just called out my function and print out a printer statement. Right? This is what I had just done in the previous video. Now I'll be making out a function, and that function what it will be actually be doing, it will actually help me for unpickling of my data. So I could just write here, unpickling, I could just write here data underscore unpickling. Okay, that is pickling, just something like this, right? So with the help of this function, what I would be doing is that I would be unpickling out the previous one which I have only actually pickled. That is converted my Python object into the byte streams. Okay, now I'm just converting my byte streams again into my Python object. So what is the file name which we have taken? So variable first of all which we have taken was file underscore name, right? This was a variable which we have taken number. So variable and file names, everything will absolutely remain same. That will not at all change in both of the functions. Okay, either we are doing pickling or unpickling, that doesn't matters, but file will not change. File name. So I just put out the file name here, that is information that I have actually used here for making out my file and storing out whatever the things I have just written on above. I just store all of those things into this particular file. Okay. After this, now how to open out that file? So for opening the file, I could just simply give out a name here as file. Okay. Okay, above I had just written out underscore file. Here I could just simply write file underscore out. Okay, so here this variable, now what it will do, it will actually open out my file for me. So open. Now what is the variable in which I have stored my file name? So that is file underscore name for me. So I just put on that thing here, right? Now after putting out a comma, now I just only and only want to read out the things which I have into this file. Now I do not want to write because writing part is already performed by the pickle function. Right, that has already been performed above in the pickling part. With the help of that dump function, this already has been performed. Now I just want to open my file into the read mode because now I only and only want to read out whatever is there into that particular file. I just want to read that out. Okay, so open file underscore name, and here I could just write the mode, and that is for me RB. Now R is for the read and B is again for the binary mode. Okay, because what it is doing, it is converting the byte streams into the Python object, right? So I would be just opening this file into the RB mode. Coming to a new line, I would just use here a new variable, that is data underscore new, let's say. Okay, now into this what I would just do, I would just pickle dot load, and into the bracket I would be writing out the file underscore out. Now what this line actually meant, which I have written here right now, so I just made out a function here. Now as we had used the dump function above for adding something onto that file, in the same way we are using out the load function for reading the whatever is written into that file and printing me as an output to me. So in that case we are using the load function, right? So pickle.load, pickle is my module which I have already imported above, right? This is that particular module. Load is my function which will help me to load out the data, load out the data which is into my file. And file underscore out, why I have just put out this variable here, because a file underscore out is only the variable in which I am opening my file in the RB mode. So we need to just tell it that, okay, which is the way where you are opening your file and what's the mode where you're opening and all those things. Okay, so this is how we just do those things. Now after this, what's the next thing? I will be simply closing out my file. I would just write file underscore out dot close. Okay, this is how we just closed out my file. Now after this, I could just simply write here return, and I could just simply write return, and I could just write here data underscore new, right? Into my, because I have used out my function, so inside that I could use out the return statement, return data underscore new. Okay, data underscore new is the variable in which I have used my load function with the help of the pickling module to do these things, right? So that is pickle.load, and into the bracket it is file underscore out. So return data underscore new. Right, now basically after this I could simply use out my print statement. Now what is that print statement used for? Now inside the print statement I would be calling out my function. Now why I would be calling that function inside the print statement? Because I want to print all of the data which is into that particular file as an output for me. So whenever we just want to do that particular thing, we use the print statement only. If I simply call out my function, so in that case it will not at all return me the data which is into that file. So if I just want to do the same thing, so in that case inside my print statement I want to call out the function. So my function name was data underscore unpickling, and I would just put out the bracket like this, right? Now if I just try to run out this program here, so now just have a look here, that first it is giving me that pickling is done, right? But so why it is giving me? Because here I just used print pickling is done. So for the first pickling one, data underscore pickle function, it has actually performed the pickling for me. Now after that, when I just unpickle the same data and just printed out that print data underscore unpickling, my function calling I have done inside the print statement. Now it is printing me all of the data which we have into this particular function, in this like whatever data we have added onto that file, it is showing me all the data. Monday is computer science, Tuesday is English, and Wednesday I have Python. So, right, this was the data which I had actually written on my own as well, right? Let me just go above and show you that thing. So yes, this was the one which I have written into this items as well, right? This was the one. So it is giving me that whole extracted data. And in the previous video, I had already shown you that how if we just open the information file, so how that data will actually appear there. Right, so I hope that you are very much clear with this, that how this pickling and unpickling is done here, and basically how to achieve pickling and unpickling. Right, so I hope this thing is very much clear to you, that how we do the pickling, how we do the unpickling, what are the definitions for this, and how to do out these things, right? Unpickling, right? We had already finished out these two topics in the previous videos. Now today we'll be seeing about some pickling exceptions, that what are the pickling exceptions that come, and basically what is that exception actually meant, right? This is what we are going to cover today. After that, we'll be even seeing the pros and cons as well of the pickling and unpickling, right? This is all the things that we are going to discuss today. So it does not take too much time in the discussion of the topic. Let's move forward. Let's see about the exceptions, and within that only I'll just let you know whatever relevant things are there. Okay. So first of all, let's discuss about the pickle exceptions. Okay. So I would just write here pickle and then exceptions. So we go here with the heading. Okay. Now, what is the first pickle exception that actually we have here? So the very first exception is pickle. So we get it like pickle dot pickling error. Pickle dot pickling, and that is error. Okay, this is the very first exception that we actually get. Pickle dot pickling error. So what does this means actually? So it means that if the pickle object does not supports the pickling, so this exception is actually raised. Okay, so let's say like the object which you have made, so that pickle object does not supports the pickling. Okay, so in that case this type of error are raised. So I would just write that thing as well here, that if pickle object, okay, just make sure to write out this word here as well, that is object. Okay, if pickle object does not doesn't support pickling. Okay, let me come down here. Okay, if pickle object does not support pickling, so here we go like this. Okay, this is how we just like like say that whenever we just get out an error, that is exception is read like pickle dot pickling error. So in that case you must understood that the pickle object is not supporting your pickling technique which you are actually using, right? So change out some object name or something like this, just do whatever is relevant in that case, right? This is the very first exception that is actually like that actually occurs, right? Second one exception which I would be talking is that is pickle dot un, that is un. Okay, pickle dot unpickling. Okay, let me write out the correct spelling first of all. Pickle dot unpickling error. Okay, now this is the second one that actually occurs, that is pickle dot unpickling error. So in this case actually what happens, so in this case a file contains bad or a corrupted data. So whenever you just get out some error that like pickle dot unpickling error, so just quickly understand that okay, the file which you have taken that contains some bad or some correct or some corrupted data. So just figure that exception here. So let me just write that thing in here as well, that in case the file contains bad or uncorrupted like this data. Okay, so this is what pickle dot unpickling error means actually, that in this case the file contains bad or uncorrupted data, right? So whenever you just get exception, that is actually pickle dot unpickling error, so just sort that out. Fine. Now moving towards the third one we have, that is EOF error. This is the third exception which actually occurs. Now what do we meant from this EOF error? So EOF, first of all, the full form for this EOF is end of file actually. Okay, so in this case the end of file is detected. Okay, this exception is raised whenever you detect like end of file is detected. Basically you have not closed the brackets, you had opened the bracket but you haven't closed that out. So on all of those cases this EOF error occurs, that is end of file. So while writing your sentence, while completing your sentence, at the last of your sentence somewhere you just missed out putting out the closing bracket. In the starting you have opened that out, right? But after putting that out you just missed that particular thing. So in that case this EOF error actually occurs. So let me just write that here, that in case the end of file, in case the end of file is detected, this basically this EOF one is actually a very common error detected right here. It is a very common error, so just remember out the full form for EOF, that is actually end of file. Do not forget that. So from the name only you can just remember that whenever you just get end of file, so check out your lines where you have put on the brackets and where you have closed out your brackets. Okay, somewhere there you have missed out something. That is why this types of error comes to you. Okay, now this is over. These were the three ones. These were the three exceptions that we need to handle, that are called the pickle exceptions. Okay, first one was pickle.pickling error. It means that if pickle object doesn't supports the pickling, this was the one, right? Second, we have pickle.unpickling error. So this means that in case the file contains bad or uncorrupted data. And third one is EOF error. So it means that in case the end of file is detected. Right, now let's move towards the pros. Prawns. Okay, this is the one, the topic which we are going to discuss today. Fine. Now, okay, so let's start here. Let me just take out the color so that we can start writing it out. Okay, let me just go here, and from here let me just take out this one. Right here, let's start with the one, and let me get out some space for me as well. Fine, so let the first prawns which we'll be discussing right now here, that is comes. Prawns actually means the advantages. Another name for advantages is prawns, and cons means the disadvantages. Okay, right. So comes handy to save complicated data. To save complicated data. Okay, so the first advantage is there that you can just save out your complicated data in a very common way. Like comes handy to save the complicated data. Okay, now. Second advantage that we can discuss is that it is first of all easy to use. That we had already seen, right? In the previous video, we had seen about how to do the pickling and how to do the unpickling. So pickling was super easy, right? Only reading out the file, the writing out the file, that was all which we had done, right? So it is easy to use. Comma, lighter, comma, lighter, and doesn't require and does not require several lines of codes, right? Several line of code, right? So basically this one is easy to use and lighter to use, and basically the very important thing is that it does not require several lines of code, right? When we had just done out the pickling, so in that we had seen that we had not written out a very long code, right? That was around 5 to 10 lines of code which we were actually written for doing out the pickling. So this is saying that it doesn't require too much of lines of code, right? Now moving towards the next, what I could just put on the third one, that the pickle file generated, which like the pickle file which is generated. Okay, let me come down. Okay, so the pickle file which is generated is not at all easy. It is not easily readable, and thus provides some security actually. Okay, and it basically provides some security. So we all know that whenever a file is not easily readable, so this means that a file is a little bit more secure, right? Anyone cannot access that file and just read out all the things which are written here. So the pickle file which is actually generated, that is not easily readable. So it means that it provides some security, right? This is what I just meant from here. Fine. So these are the three advantages which we have discussed. First one, that it comes handy to save complicated data. Second one, it is easy to use, lighter, and does not require several lines of code. And the third one is basically the pickled file generated is not easily readable and thus provides some security. Right, these were the pros. And now let's move towards the cons. Cons means the disadvantages that we have here. So let me just write that cons here. Fine, let me just take out a color so that we can proceed on with the writing. So right here, fine. Now my very first cons which I'll be discussing out here is, first one is languages other than Python, other than languages other than Python may not able to reconstruct languages other than Python may not be able to reconstruct pickled Python objects. Pickled Python objects. So basically, other languages like the other programming languages which we have other than Python, so they may not be able to reconstruct the pickled Python object, right? This is what is the very first disadvantage of the pickling, right? Now, second disadvantage which we have, it has basically, okay, let me just come down a little bit. Fine. Okay. Second one is risk of unpickling data from malicious sources. So malicious sources, right? So these are the two disadvantages which we have here in the pickling, right? So I hope that you have got very much clear idea regarding the exceptions, regarding the advantages and regarding disadvantages that we have discussed here in this particular video. Right, so I hope that you have got a very fair idea that how to deal with the exceptions, like what's the advantages that why we use pickling, and what are the disadvantages that why you should not I just not say that you should not use pickling, but why we just rarely use that, why just not use that too much. Okay, so I just hope that you have got all the three things from this particular. We can make the directories in the Python, right? So till now we were dealing with the threads and basically we were dealing with many things, right? Now basically we'll be moving towards the directories in Python, that how you can make out the directories, what are the methods, how to use out that methods, what kinds of errors actually come. So these are all the things which that we'll be dealing with out, right? Fine, so let's get started here. So I'll be starting that there are different ways available in the OS module for creating a directory. Just let me let you know very first thing that basically we have a module that is OS in Python programming. Okay, that is modules. We just import it using the import and then OS, right? We just simply write that like that. So basically, OS is the module which is actually used for creating out a directory in Python programming language. So always remember that whenever you are just want to create out a directory in Python programming language, so OS is the module that you would be referring out. Okay, the very first thing to keep in mind, right? Now, next, basically, there are two ways available for making out these directories. First is os.mkdir, right? And the second one is os.makeDirs. Okay, these are the two different ways which are available for making out the directories in Python programming language using the OS module. Fine, now I'll be discussing them one by one. So today in this video, I'll be discussing about the os.mkdir method in Python, which is basically used for creating out a directory, right? So let's see that how we just use that out. And what does that actually mean, right? So os.mkdir method in Python is used to create a directory named path with a specified numeric mode. This method raises file exist error if the directory to be created already exists. Okay, so basically what it is saying that os.mkdir is a method in Python which is used to create a directory to the whatever the path you give and whatever the name you just want to give out to that directory. It allows you to create the directory of that particular name and at that particular path. Okay, let's say I'm having a path which is, let's say that is C users user. Okay, let's say this is the path. So I just want to create out a directory into that. So I could just put out that particular path in which I just want to create that out. and this will actually create that particular directive in that particular place, right? Now next thing that comes here is that if basically you have made out a directory at a place where it already exists. Let's say I want to make out a directory in C users and then users, so I just want to give out a directory name as, let's say, Python. Okay, Python programming. So if that directory is actually already made out, so in that case what it will show you, it will all actually show you that file exists error. It means that your this particular file already exists, so you can just not make out a new file of this particular name into this particular place, right? So it means that thing. Hope you just got for very first thing that OS is the module that is used for doing out all of these things. Then basically there are two ways for making this out. The first one is mkdir and second one is mkdirs, right? And then today we are going to discuss about the mkdir method. So basically it is used to create out a directory named path with a specified numeric mode. This method reads file exists error if the directory to be created already exists, right? Now let's get started and write out a program for creating out a directory in Python programming. Let's see how we just do that particular thing, right? Okay, so very first thing that I just mentioned that we will be using out the module for doing this particular thing. What I've just write here is that I'm writing import and then OS. So as I mentioned, as I'm saying from the very starting that this is the module. So modules need not to be installed onto the devices which you are actually using, right? They need not to be installed. Simply they come already installed, right? So OS is one of the modules that we are using. So I do not need to install this module manually. It already comes installed. So simply I could just write import and then use out this module for my use, right? This is the idea regarding this particular module. Fine. Okay. Now after this, what I'm just showing here is that I'll be putting out a directory. So I'll be making out a directory. Let's say that is make underscore directory. Okay, this is one of the variables in which I'll be storing out the name of which I just want the directory to be created out, right? So I will be just doing this particular thing here. Just 1 second. Okay, now here I'll be just putting out the name of the directory into the between, right? I'll be just putting that out here. So okay, let's say my directory name which I just want to put out here is okay, I'll just write here tutorial directory. Okay, tutorial and directory. Okay, let's say this is a name for my directory. We just want to keep it out here. Fine, that is tutorial directory. I just put that out here and I could just give out some space as well in between of this. Fine. Right. Now what I would just do is that I'll be making out a path for the directory, that in which particular path do I just want to make out this directory. Okay. So in that case I'll be writing that is path underscore and that is directory. Okay. Right. Putting the semicolon. Okay. Now my path in which I just want to put out a directory is, let's say okay, let me just put that here in the practicals. Okay, in the practicals, let me just put that out. So this is my path where I just want to put out. So let's write that. That is C users user PyCharm project, and then we have practicals. Okay, so I'll just write here C, and then I have here users. Users, then basically I have user. Okay, let me just put out / here. Fine, here as well. See users use. Okay, this U is actually small for the user. Okay, again / here, and then I'll be this PyCharm projects, right? This PyCharm project, then / and then it is basically practicals for me. Practicals, okay. Right, practicals, and inside this practicals only, I just want to put out the name. Inside this practicals only, I just want to put out my directory which I had named with the tutorial directory. Fine. So this is the path which I mentioned, that where I just want to put out this directory which I am making out here, right? So that is the users user PyCharm project and then practicals, right? I would just come down here. Fine. Okay, now basically what I would just simply use, let's take out a variable, let's say that is path, and I would just write here os dot path dot join into the bracket. I would be first of all writing the path underscore directory, putting out a comma, and here be writing out make directory. Now what do I have written here? What do I just meant from here? Whatever I have written, see, I had made out a variable that is path. Okay, now into that variable I'm using out my OS module, and with that OS module I'm using out the path function, and after that I'm using my join function. Now why I am joining this? Because this is my path directory into which I want to put out this directory name which I had made out, right? So my path directory would be C users, user, PyCharm project, and then practicals, and the name for my directory is tutorial directory. So when they both join, so that will actually become C users, user, PyCharm project, practicals, and inside practicals tutorial directory, right? So I just want to put this particular at that place. So that is the reason that why I have used out this join function here, right? Hope you just got the idea. That's why I have just used that particular thing, right? Now what I would just do is that I make out the directory into the particular path. So I would just write os.mkdir. This is the method which we had used, right? It's the method which we were planning to use out today. So that I have just written out here os.mkdir. Okay, and inside that I'll be putting out the variable in which I had set out the path, that what to store and where to store, right? Fine, and after that I would be using out one of my print statements to get a confirmation to me that this directory has been created. Okay, I will just write that. Let's say this directory has been, and that is created like this. Okay, so I just want to print out this particular statement that this directory has been created. So I just wrote out that statement, right? Now first of all, once again, just listen to me very much carefully what I'm just telling you right now. I had imported out my OS module because this is the only module with which we can actually make out a directory. Okay, with which we just make out a directories in the Python programming. After that, we had to make a variable that is make underscore directory. Okay, and the name for my directory which I just want to put out here, that is tutorial directory. Okay, after that I had set out the path for this directory, that at what particular place I just want to make this out. So that is for me C. Okay, just 1 second, let me calm down. Fine. So for me that is C users, user, PyCharm project, and then we have practical. So this is the particular place where I just want to create out this directory. Fine. After that I had made out a variable, and into that variable with the help of the OS module I have joined both of the directories. Both of directories, the first one that what is my place for the directory where I just want to make it out, and second one is the name for my directory which I want to make out. Fine. And at last simply I just used out the mkdir method to make out my directory at this particular position, and that particular position and the name of the directory is saved in the variable which is path, right? So I just passed on that path variable into my mkdir method, right? And simply at last, whenever this whole of the things are executed, I just wanted a print statement to be printed that this directory has been created. Right now it's a time for running out the program, so I'll just click right and run directory in Python. Fine, so just have a look that here I've just got out the message that this directory has been created. Now just have a look that this was one of my places where I just used. This is the practicals, right? This is the one C users, user, PyCharm project, and practical. This is the place where I wanted to create out my directory. And here this particular directory has been created as well, that is tutorial directory. Let me just go on to that particular folder and show you from here. So I would just come at this, okay, I'll just come at this place, then go to the Windows C, then we have users, then we have user. Under that I have the PyCharm project, and inside this I have the practicals, right? So let me just zoom in out here, zoom in. Fine, so this is the tutorial directory which has been made, which we had made right here, right? This was the particular name which I told you, that tutorial directory. So right here, so this is the one directory which has been made into this practicals folder. You can just even check out the the path as well, which I had just put it on here above, right? So hope you just got the idea that how we can just make out a directory in the Python programming language. Just let me just do this here and remove this from the side. Fine, so let me just again revise this thing once more to you, that basically there are two different ways which are available for making out the directory in Python with the help of the OS module. First is mkdir and second one is makeDirs. So we had used out the mkdir method right now, so that is used to create out a directory named path with a specified numeric mode, and this particular method raises the file exists error if the directory to be created already exists. Now let's say here I've just used this out. If I had made out a directory which already exists into this path, so that should have given me an error, that is File exist error. It means that your directory already exists at this particular place. Right, hope you just got the idea that how you can make a, we'll be seeing that how we can use out the os.makeDirs function in the making of the directory in Python programming language, right? So even in the previous video, we had discussed about the directories in Python, and even we had discussed about one method that was os.mkdir method, right? Let me give you a quick revision so that you can correlate with this very easily about it, okay? So basically there were two different ways available for making out the directory, and the module which we actually used was os module. So the functions were os.mkdir and os.mkdirs. So os.mkdir method in Python was used to create out a directory named path with the specified numeric mode. This method raised file exist error if the directory to be created already exists. Okay, this was the whole idea. Now, today we'll be discussing about the makeDirs function. Okay, let's first read out that what is it written here. Then I'll be letting you some more interesting things about this particular function. So os.makeDirs method in Python is used to create out a directory recursively. That means while making leave directory, if any intermediate level directory is missing, os.makedir method will create them all. Okay, let me just give you an example. Let's say I want to make out a directory in the path which is, let's say, C users user, and then I have PyCharm project, and inside the, okay, let's say this one is already defined for me. Okay, let me do one thing. Let's say I just want to make out this particular directory onto my D drive. Okay, that is D. So I just want to be making it inside D and then Python projects, and then I just want to make it inside the Python. Okay, D Python projects and then Python. Let's say this is the whole path where I just want to make out a directory. Now D is one of the directories which is all a drive which is already made out, right? We just want to make that out. But what about the Python projects and Python? If that already exists, then well and good, and if that does not exist, so what will this makeDirs function do? It will automatically make that path as well for you. So in this os.makeDirs function, it is not compulsory that whatever the path you are writing onto the place we just want to put out your directory, it's not compulsory that path should already exist. If it is not existing, so what it will do, it will automatically make that for you. But the starting type that you are using, C or D, that should actually exist, right? So my path was let's say D, then it was Python projects, then it was Python. So inside Python I just want to make out my directory. So let me, okay, hold on one thing. Let me put out a comment here and write that. Let's say this is the one, okay, D, and then basically what do I have here? After that, let's say it was PyCharm projects, okay, and then inside that I was, let's say, having Python, and then inside that I just want to make out my directory. So that's, let's say, directory 1. Just 1 second, right here. Fine. So let's say this D is the one which is already exists, but let's say PyCharm projects and Python do not exist in this D drive. So what it will do, this os.mkdirs function will actually automatically make out this PyCharm projects, this Python directory for you, and this path for you, and then inside that it will particularly put out this directory which is directory 1. Right, hope you just got the idea what I was actually trying to explain you here from this example, right? Now, let's do one thing. Let's start seeing out the programs and the other thing. That will be much more clear to you. Fine. So the function only does this different thing from the previous function, which was os.mkdir. So in that the path should already be existing, but in os.mkdirs method, it is not compulsory that it should exist. If it is not existing, then the directory will automatically be made. Fine. Okay. So the very first method that we'll be doing out here is that I would be importing out the OS module. Import OS, as I mentioned that OS is the module with the help of which module we are able to make out this particular directories in the Python programming language. So OS module is actually used, right? So I'm just particularly using that module only. After that, okay. After that, I just want to put out the name for my directory. So name underscore, and that is dir. Okay, name for my directory. So now let's say the name for my directory is my name. Let's say that is Shambhavi. Okay, fine. Now what is the like what is the particular path, what is the path where I just want to make out this directory. So now I'll be making out one of the path which actually does not exist onto my this folder, okay, which does not exist, fine. So I'm just making out the path, let's say, okay. So I'll just first of all give it a name, let's say that is let's say path underscore dir, fine. Now, what is the one which I just want to make out? Let's say that is in the D drive. Okay, inside the D drive, basically, I would be having, let's say, that is the same which I just mentioned. That is, let's say, uh, PyCharm projects. Then, let's say, I would be having here, okay, then I would be having here inside the PyCharm project, I would be having the, let's say, project, and inside that I want to put out this particular one particular directory which is Shambhavi. Fine. Now coming down, what I would just do is that I would be using out one of the variables, and into that variables I'll be using out my join method, which will actually help me to join both of these directories. So that will automatically become D PyCharm projects project and then Shambhavi. Okay, so let's use out that. I'll just use the name as final underscore dir, put out a equal to sign, and here we'll be using out the OS module. So that is OS dot path dot, and here comes my join function. Join function, because I just want to join out both of these things, because then only in that case this particular file, this directory that is Shambhavi, will be made onto that particular place, right? So this is the reason I just want to join both of them. So os.path.join, and here basically I'll be using out both the variables which I had made about, but the first one that I'll be using is my path underscore dir, and second one I'll be using about name underscore dir, because at the last of path underscore dir I just want to add name underscore dir, right? So in that case I'll be just using out like this. Let me put it out path underscore dir, and then it is name underscore dir like this. Okay, that is actually done. Now, what I would just do is that I would be using out the make_dir method for making out the directory onto the particular path, and that final path is being saved into the variable which is final underscore dir. Right, so what I would just do here is that I'd be using out OS, putting out a dot here, and then writing out here make dir is this function, okay. os.makeDirs, and into the bracket I'll be putting out the variable in which I have stored my final path for the making of the directory. So that is final underscore dir, right? Final underscore dir is the method, is the basically variable where I have just like saved out my final path where I just want to make out this like directory which is Shambhavi, okay. Fine, and at last I just wanted to print out a statement as soon as this directory has been created. I just wanted to print out a statement that okay, I just wanted the directory has been created. Okay, let's create created. Fine, I just wanted this message to come here. Like after the directory has been created, that the directory has been created. Fine, so basically what is happening here, with the help of my OS module, I am just making out one of the directories. But what's the main thing here, that the path in which I am making, in that this PyCharm project and this project, these are actually not defined previously, right? So basically it will, so what I would just do here is that I would be using this out and making out this directory, and then let's see basically with the help of the make_dir function how it will actually become, right? Let me just quickly run out my program here for a while. So it is saying to me that the directory has been created. Now let's do one thing. Let's open out this folder here. That is the one, File Explorer, and right here. So, okay. What I would just do, I would just go onto the Windows D. Okay, in Windows D, I have this PyCharm projects. And inside that PyCharm projects, I have this Python. And inside that Python, my directory, which is Shambhavi, that has actually been made. Right, so this was one of the path which is not already defined onto my device. I haven't defined this path till now in this particular device, right? So when I just wrote here that I want my directory to be created in the PyCharm project and project, so that was not defined previously. So what does that my make_dir function do? It had actually made out this file, that is PyCharm projects, into the D folder, and inside this PyCharm project it has made the file that was project, and inside that project it has actually made out that directory for me, that is the name of Shambhavi. So I just showed you that particular thing. Now let me just go back. So here you are able to see out the whole correct path which has been actually made out for this particular directory, for this particular directory of the path which I have actually set out here. So this was only the use of the os.makeDRS function, that this method in Python is used to create out a directory recursively. That means while making leaf directory, if any intermediate level directory is missing, so os.makeDRS method will create them all. Right, so just hope you just got the idea that how you can make out the directory with the help of one parameter in the directories of Python. Okay, till now we had learned about the directories of Python, right? We had seen that what is directory in Python, how we can just make out the directory, and all those things we had seen till now, right? Now, it's the turn for seeing one parameter in the directory, that is actually the mode. Mode is one of the parameters which we have here, and now we are just going to use that out, fine? Before that, just let me quickly give you a revision regarding the directories in Python. So there are different methods available in the OS module for creating out a directory. So basically OS is the module which actually allows us to make out the directories in the Python programming language, okay? Now, after that, the functions which we have, that is first of all os.mkdir, and second one is the os.makeDIRs, right? Now let's go on with the os.mkdir method. That method in Python is used to create out a directory named path with the specified numeric mode. So this method raises file exist error if the directory to be created already exists, right? This is the idea regarding the os.mkdir method in the Python. Now, basically, it is one of the methods which is used to create a directory. That is absolutely right. But it basically, you can just create out the directory at whatever the path you want to give out and whatever the name you just want to give out for that directory, you can make out that particular directory. Fine. Now, what type of method, what type of error raises if your if your directory is already made? So in that case, our error is there, that is file existed. Today I'll be showing you that itself, that how this can be raised, right? So that actually comes here. Second, we were having os.mkdir method, right? Here we were having that mkdirs method. So that was also a method in Python which is used to create out a directory. Now after that, let's say you just given out a path. That is, let's say this was the example which you have taken. You had given out this D drive, okay? Inside this, that was PyCharm project and that was Python. And inside that, you wanted to make out a directory named Shambhavi. Fine. Now, inside that, what will actually happen? This PyCharm project, this was not actually, this was not there actually, right? This was not at that particular place. So, what you can just do here is that you can just name it out. You can just write out the particular directory what you want, and as soon as you run out your program, so this directory automatically makes out if that is not at all made. Okay, that automatically makes out, and it will basically store out that particular directory, name directory, whatever you are just having. Let's say it is Shambhavi, so it will make out this particular and store it as name of the Shambhavi. Right, so this was about both of the methods that we had actually seen. Now I would just not waste too much time revising out the previous topics. Let's make out a new program. So here I just commented out whatever we had just made out previously. Now it's the time for making out a new program. So let me just write here and start importing out the library. So I will just write here import and my OS module. Fine. After this, what I will just do here is that I'll be putting out the directory name. So okay, let's see what are variables. Okay. Okay, I'll just write here make underscore dir. Okay, make underscore dir my variable, into which I'll be storing out the name of my directory which I want to make out. Let's say that directory name is for me example. Okay, example is my directory name which I just want to put out. Fine. After that, we have a path directory as well, that is path underscore dir. Now, what is that actually used for? So I would just want to give out here my particular path which I am having, so that onto which particular place you just want to put out this directory, that I just want to give out here. Fine, I would just put out the colon here, and let's say I just give out my D drive, and inside that I will be just putting, okay, let's see that what's the one which we had made yesterday. So that was PyCharm project and then project. Okay, so I would just write here PyCharm. Okay, and it was project, space projects. Okay, space, and here PyCharm space projects. Putting out again the double slash here. And after this, what I would just do, I would just put out the name for my directory, that is project. Okay, this is my this is my full file where I just want to put out this directory that I have written out. Fine. After this, I'd be using out my mode, the one parameter which we were using right today. Okay, so that is 0, let's say 0 O and 666. Oh, okay, this one is actually small o. Fine. Now this is the default mode which we actually have here into this particular directory. This is the default mode, right? So whenever you want to set out some modes, if you are not setting out, so this one comes as a default for you. Fine. Now after this, what I could just use, I would be just using join underscore path, let's say my variable, and into that I could just write os dot path dot join. Okay, and into the bracket I could just write both of the variables. First I'll be writing path underscore dir because that is the variable in which I will store the particular location. At this particular location you just need to make out the directory for me, and after that I'll be putting out the name for the variable in which I have stored the name for my directory which I want to make out here. Fine, that is done. And now it's the time for creating out a directory. So I would just simply write os.mkdir. os.mkdir. I would just put out the bracket. I would just write here path underscore di. Okay, not this one. I would just write here join underscore path because this is the variable where we have joined whole of the location and the name of directory as well. That what we just want to put out and where we just want to make it out, right? Now, after putting out a comma, I'll be just writing out here the name for the variable in which I am having the name for my directory. So that is make underscore dir for me. And here I could simply use how to print the statement, and inside that print statement I could simply write that let's say the directory has been created. This is the way, this is the sentence which I just want to put out. Now it's not always compulsory to put out the sentence, it's your choice. If you just want to put out here, you can absolutely put out that thing. Instead of this make dir, just hold on, make it to the variable that is mode. Now that is okay. Fine, this sentence is not compulsory. I just put out as for my confirmation that as soon as directory has been made, I would just get out the sentence. Otherwise, whatever the error I'm having, I would just get that particular error. Fine. Let's try to run out our program here. So run now. Okay, so it is saying that it cannot find out the path, which is this GPyCharm project sample. Okay, what has happened to this particularly? Let's see. Okay, then I am okay, sorry, the slashes are wrong. Just let me put out the different slashes right here. Okay, now let's run it out once again. So fine here. Okay, the system cannot find the specific GPyCharm projects and then example. Okay, let's see that what was the one which we have taken yesterday. Okay, that was project, not projects, right? Okay, this one is absolutely right, and PyCharm projects, this is as well. Okay, and what's the error here? Fine, let's do one thing. Let's copy out this whole error only. Control C, and now let me paste it at this particular place right here. Okay, let's run it out. Fine, so now it is giving me that the directory has been created. I'm just getting out the sentence that directory has been created. Now let's do one thing. Let's go on to the folder, my Explorer, and from here let's open out the D drive. So let me Windows D and here PyCharm projects, then project, and have a look that the name we had created was example, right? So the name from the example, my directory has been created into this particular file. Right now, one more thing to mention here, that now if I am just gonna again use out this one which I had already used, so that is C users user PyCharm projects and then any other directory name. So then it will basically give me that file exists, or it will show me that this file which you are actually trying to make out right here, that already exists onto this particular path. Let's do one thing. Let me just copy this whole program. Okay, let me make the changes into this program only which I have written right here. Okay, so that is, I would copy out this whole path which I have taken here, Control C, and I would just paste it out onto this path dir. Okay, I would just put it out here. Fine. And what's the name for my dir that we had made? That was tutorial directory. Okay, let me just change out the name as well. So I'm just doing this so as to show you that if you are just going to do the same thing again, so it will actually show you the error, that is your file already exists. Let me run it out here. Fine. Now just have a look that it cannot create a file. What type of error it is giving? It cannot create a file when that file already exists. So this is one of the files which you are already having onto your device. So it gives me the file exists error. This was the error which I was mentioning in the definition as well, right? Let me go above and show you out the definition where I just told you about this error. So okay, yeah, here it was. That this method raise file exist error if the directory to be created already exists. So this directory which we are creating, that was tutorial directory, that already exists onto our device, right? Just like this here we already have. So when I just try to again make the directory from this particular name at the same place, it shows me that it cannot create a file with the file with that actually exists. Okay, so in that case it is actually showing me out this type of error. Right. So just hope you got the idea that first of all that what is the another mode that you can actually use out for making out this directories in the Python programming. Other than that, I even told you and showed you that what type of errors actually come if you are having the file which is already existing onto a particular place, and if you just make out again a file with the same name, what type of error actually comes, right? So the same thing applies on to the os.mkdirs method as well. Here as well you have the same parameter which is mode, and the default one is as well same which I have told you, that is 0 or 666, this one which I have told you right now, right? So hope you just got the idea regarding this directories right here. So this is all for this video. Till then, thank you and take care.